Greetings, fellow fairy tale things. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
Many years ago, the worlds became enamored by a fairy tale unlike any other. A story about love, friendship, and family, but with an irreverent charm. That that all started with an ogre, a donkey, and a princess. So please join us on our epic Shrek quest to the original all-star who went from the swamp to the screen to even the age. This in the simply smashing Shrek-Vember. Dragon, if I sound a little unenthused, it's because we have to talk about Shrek the Third.
I know the feeling.
Okay, let's just lay out the thesis for it right here. Dragon, I know how you feel about the movie, but you can reiterate it in just a second. But honestly, for me, Dragon, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't hate it. I honestly, that's even more frustrating to me. Because to me, this movie is like it's a hodgepodge of some really good gags, some really bad gags, some decent performances, some really terrible performances, a plot that just does nothing and goes nowhere, and overall, Dragon, it's just meh. Like to me, I can't even elicit the same emotion that you can from it on a bad level, and that to me is almost even worse. Like it's to me, it's even worse on a fundamental level as a film fan to have a movie where I'm just like, well, that exists. Dragon, honestly, I wish I could be more mad at this movie than I am. But I mean, to me, it does enough things like not right, but at least competently that I'm like, it's not like a train wreck on the same level that I don't know, something like Shark Tale or the Emoji Movie or Norm of the North. You know, it's nowhere near that level of bad. But I almost wish it was because it's definitely disappointing. It's definitely a step down from the first two Shreks. Quick observation that I kind of had watching this that I don't know where else I'm gonna have a chance to throw this in, but is kind of like a film history buff. Dragon 2007 was a really interesting year because it was a really damn good year for kind of like Oscar filmmaking because we got stuff like No Country for Old Men, There Will Be Blood, Atonement. I mean, these are like really great like films that have stood the test of time 10 years later. And then we have the blockbuster side of things where we have kind of a towering trio of three really disappointing third movies and franchises, Dragon. We have Spider-Man 3, Shrek the Third, and Pirates of the Caribbean 3. All in 2007, summer 2007, all just really crushing disappointments. So I don't know, that's interesting to me because I like, as someone who looks back on films fondly, like, okay, like, let's trace what, like, I've always had a 2007 in really high regard because of stuff like There Will Be Blood. But looking back on it, man, 2007 really produced some stinkers in terms of blockbusters. All right, that's all I got. I'm sorry. That was just a little, yeah, little off track. So, Dragon, I wish I had the same fire and passion of hatred for this movie that you do, but kind of reiterate the folks at home how you feel about this movie.
So, for those who may not be aware, I like to give everything a fair shot. I really do. And I've done that with Shrek 3, but you know what? Over the years, Shrek 3 is one of those films. It's one of those films that really gets under my skin in a fundamental way. It really does. I'm saying like Wrath of God type stuff here. It's like there's like Shrek the Third is one of those movies that makes me angry, truly. Just really it's one of those movies that just it's an insult to animation and it bugs me. It
Oh
really
man,
does. It really I'm saying this thing it insults me for existing and I've because here's the things. It's one of those movies for me. It really is. Like I once posited doing like not on that was years ago, like kind of doing like a list for like a theme of like some of the worst movies or like some of the ones that just peeved me most, and this was definitely on that list. Just out of context, it's like
I
not even.
have no, it's so interesting, Dragon. I have nowhere near that level of hatred for this movie, but as you know, I'm a big fan of like, kind of like hate watching movies. So man, I really wish I felt the passion that you do for this, man. I really do.
But I mean, again, like this one just really hits it lights a fuse. It hits a core. So, folks, I'm just gonna warn you ahead of time here. I mean, I'm gonna give a scathing like I've given it I've given it a fair watch, and it's been festering for years. So, forgive me if I'm gonna get really brutal, more than brutal than I've ever gotten anything else here before when we talk about Shrek. So forgive me if I'm just unforgiving about it here, but it's just like I remember the hype for Shrek 3. You know, you remember the hype, much like there was the hype for Shrek 2, because I was in for that one after seeing the first one in theaters. I went in blind to the first one. You saw the second one, like getting into it and everything. So you imagine, okay, oh my God, Shrek's come back for a third movie. Oh boy, oh boy. Gonna go in the theaters, gonna see that. And I was seeing it, and I was just like, it's one of those experiences where you're just kind of like, yeah, it's Shrek again, right? And you're just kind of processing. It's like, well, I mean, I like that because it's Shrek, right? It's basically almost like a Phantom Menace thing with Shrek, almost. And it's basically it's Shrek with a baby. That's pretty much what the advertising, the marketing was. And then we get kind of it's basically this begins the aftermath in pop culture of what we have with Shrek. I think this is the building blocks of what we have in pop culture, where it's where it's like like I remember I'd see parodies of Shrek 3 and like the ogre babies everywhere, and it would be like, oh man, we're just still going back to that well, because it was like, yeah, we've run out of like the baby is the symbol of all that is wrong with the movie in some respects. It's that we're marketing purely on this one idea that we have. Everything else is it's like with Nightmare on Elm Street, where Freddy we brought back Freddy Krueger, but as like a whole baby subplot. Oh, it's a boy. It's like one of those marketing things. And like I remember, like like the DreamWorks had these shows. Like I don't know if you remember Father of the Pride at all. Do you remember Father of the Pride at all?
Oh God, yes. Oh yeah,
And there's
definitely.
this famous episode of Father of the Pride where, bear in mind, it was a DreamWorks show, but before we have the DreamWorks shows like we have today, where they're actually trying. It was just one of those things where, like, they were kind of experimenting with kind of the, kind of your early Family Guy stage of influences. Like, sort of like, let's put something a little bit more edgy and adult on there and just have kind of DreamWorks associated with in some way, shape, or form. And it wasn't all bad. I won't just like cast shade on that show. My point is, there's like a famous episode where they really cashed in their DreamWorks chips, and they brought in Donkey as the actor who plays
Oh, I
Donkey.
remember that. Yeah. It's all coming back to me.
And this is what I'm talking about, the oversaturation and kind of the pop culture of it all, T, because like Donkey's in there doing pressing, hey everybody, stay tuned for Shrek 3. Like, hey, make sure you watch Shrek 3 next summer. It's like it was one of those things. Just again, like it wasn't pretty, just to put it simply. And I think overall, Shrek 3 is the start of Shrek being oversaturated, when it's just like Shrek becomes basically, this sets the stage for where we comment on this in Shrek 4. But on the whole, it's just this is the beginning of Shrek being oversaturated, and basically where Shrek has overstayed his welcome. And it's like, yeah, we've kind of betrayed all that was special about this character, all stemming from Shrek the Third. And overall, like the easy comparison is, and I don't use it just for the easy sake of it, but it's like this is the anti Toy Story 3. And yes, I'm aware they made this film knowing that they were going to make more, and that's why it's a big contributing factor to why this film does not have the elbow grease that the other two had. In. I know it's a very different thing from what Toy Story 3 and even in its current state is going through, because they intended to end at 3, then they're doing a fourth, but it's a risk, but it's a really calculated risk that they're taking with that one versus this, where again they're not even worried about it. Of course, we're going to get more movies. Let's not even try. So I think if I had to sum that to one thing, to you, this last thing is like very big and fundamental to the whole conversation. The thing that bugs me to my core about Shrek the Third is that it didn't try. It didn't try, and they know it. We'll get into it in the background, but let's just say it didn't try, it knows it, and that just it irritates me to no end.
Okay, so transition to that background, Dragon.
All right, so here's the background of Shrek 3. Now, you'll notice there's not a lot of it, and that's for a reason, because I kid you not, if Shrek the Third couldn't get any worse, in the days where I was trying to like Shrek the Third, you had, I remember being eager to get the DVD to complete kind of the Shrek collection, if you will, and no commentary, and that's a bad sign. At that point, DreamWorks had done commentary to everything up to that point. Not a good sign. And you'll notice on that DVD, just looking around, and you're not going to find a lot of background because, especially if you get to something like Shrek the Fourth, you're going to find they use very little to no clips of Shrek the Third, barely anything. You won't be able to. You're going to be able to find very little. Like the best you're going to be able to find is something about the upgrade animation software and basically the cast kind of talking the film up. Like that's the best you're going to find in regards to the bonus features about this movie. So, anyways, I'm sorry. The background on this essentially is after the mega success of Shrek 2, Katzenberg had he had dollar signs and franchise in his eyes, pretty much. He did. Where he saw the Shrek film, I heard that he was kind of the one championing the whole franchise. I don't know if it was entirely Katzenberg, but it sounds like Katzenberg. So if I'm oversimplifying, that's probably the reason. So the point is, Katzenberg, Shrek 2 comes out mega successful at that time, the highest grossing animated film of all time for years to come, even after some of the big Pixar films come out, until Toy Story 3. Huzzah! They're doing gangbusters, and Katzenberg basically they were testing the waters of Shrek 2 for a franchise, and 2 confirmed, oh yeah, we're franchising the heck out of this. And much like when Kung Fu Panda came out, Katzenberg wanted to go as big as he could with a franchise. Like he said, oh, we're going to do 6 Kung Fu Panda movies, and in this case, like we're going to do 5 Shrek movies. So basically, like we're going to do 3 more after Shrek 2. So Katzenberg says he always saw Shrek as a 5-film franchise, and the last film would go full circle into Shrek's origin, show how he got to the swamp, like how Shrek ended up in that swamp alone. That was always the thing he was talking up, and he can always talked it up with the Shrek franchise. So the point being, there's always been a desire to kind of tell a story involving Shrek's past and Shrek's parents. There's always been kind of a perennial thing in Shrek and with where they're going to take the character ultimately. Because I believe, I could be wrong about this, but I could have sworn there's like a little, I think all that stems from the original Shrek book, the original book the whole franchise is based on, the William Steig book. There was like a page or 2 about Shrek's parents, and I believe that's where they're getting all of that from primarily. I could be wrong. It's like a page where Shrek's parents kicked them out, and then the story gets going. I think that's one of the elements of that original story. It could be. It's been years, so I don't remember off the top of my head. I think there's like a page about that. Anyway, so they go to Chris Miller. Chris Miller, who we know is the Magic Mirror in the Shrek films, doing the voice of the Magic Mirror, hilariously so. He's kind of story man extraordinaire on the first 2 movies. Did a really good job in story. And this is the first film he directed, and they wanted to put him on this. I believe the other directors were busy elsewhere, and they couldn't get him, so they tossed it to Chris Miller, and unfortunately, Chris Miller did not deliver on this movie. He really didn't. I don't know what it was. My working theory is that this is the first movie made purely to keep the franchise going in the Shrek franchise. Like this movie was made to facilitate the other 2 movies they wanted to make. So I would make the leap that that's the primary thing in the making of this film and the making of everything. So they could basically finance the other 2 and keep the Shrek wagon going. And here's something something so horribly painful in the backstory that no one will cop to, but I swear to you, it's so Tiki. I don't know if you're going to remember this. In Shrek 2, there was a little blink and you miss it gag. Where Shrek's in bed and he's looking up, and Fiona's girlhood bedroom, you see this Justin Timberlake poster. And this Justin Timberlake posters was completely coincidental because Cameron Diaz and Justin Timberlake.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So the point is, like, they didn't know that was going. I'm sorry.
I'm getting a little paranoid because I'm not sure if the audience is hearing it or not. But to me, you're still kind of cutting out. So, finish up the background. I'm gonna duck in and out just to see if that fixes things. Go ahead.
All right. Anyway, so folks, it goes like this. Keep it simple. So Cameron Diaz and Justin Timberlake were an item around 2003, which they didn't know when they were making Shrek 2, because they just like threw like a little reference to the band that Justin Timberlake is. Why not? And and again, it's completely coincidental. And I get a sneaking suspicion that they brought him in for the movie because they got wind of this thing of like, oh, they're an item. So I presume it's like Justin Timberlake is in a relationship with Cameron Diaz, and he says, oh, well, can I do a Shrek movie? I'd love to do a Shrek movie. Or if he's interviewed about it, like, hey, I hear your girlfriend's doing a voice in like the highest grossing animated film of all time. Do you want in on that action? Basically, the shorthand is there's an implied Richard Pryor-ness about it all. Like, Richard Pryor in Superman 3 was went on talk. She said, oh, yeah, I'd love to be in a Superman movie. So they put him in a Superman movie because it was popular, because it was the thing to do at the time. It was just because it was kind of, it was like, hey, well, why doesn't he do that? Like, let's get all the celebrities we can in a Shrek film. So they basically Richard Pryor, Justin Timberlake in. So ironically, they broke up by the film's before the film's release, like right before the film's release. So the idea is like they were in a relationship because it takes years to make an anime movie. They were in a relationship when they were making the movie. That didn't end well, and then they're kind of stuck with them through the duration. And by the end product, they're stuck with Justin Timberlake in the movie. So I'm sure it's just an awkward affair all around, really.
Okay.
And of course, makes this movie made big box office as per sequelitis of okay, the next movie's coming out, therefore we all want to see it, therefore it's going to make a lot of money, even if it's good or not. So.
You know what's painful about Justin Timberlake, Dragon, is that I will like thoroughly defend him as an actor and stuff like The Social Network, but we'll get to it. We'll get to it. He's not bringing home the bacon in this movie.
But yeah, that's the background on a whole. Just the main takeaway again is they're pretty much making this so they can keep the franchise going. So,
all right, Dragon. Since I ducked it out, go ahead and do me a favor and copy and paste the cheat sheet one more time.
Okay.
Okay. So let's start with Shrek. Oh God. Oh man. Honestly, Dragon, for a lot of these, I don't have much to say because they don't do a lot with any of these characters. With Shrek, it's just kind of like he's gone from this beloved, ogre who's just, very free spirited and set in his own ways to just, I don't know, the dude's just kind of like he's gotten so used to the royal lifestyle that I feel like all the edge is just taken off of him. And in this movie, he's just kind of going through the motions. You know what I mean? I like he feels half committed to whatever the hell storyline he's going on with Justin Timberlake. I mean, I don't know, man. There's just something about it that's just off. And also, it bothers me that we repeat a lot of the themes that we should have already wrapped up with Shrek 1, specifically the whole like, oh, no one's, when Shrek's insecure about being a father as an ogre. I'm like, isn't that the whole point of marrying Fiona and everything? The whole point of Shrek 1 was that you're comfortable with being an ogre now. Like, now you're bringing back the whole insecurities with the ogre thing again. Really? I mean, I don't know, man. To me,
here's the problem, Tiki. The problem is not being insecure about being an ogre. The problem is announcing it like a catchphrase that he's insecure about being an ogre. But I'm an ogre. But I'm an ogre. But I'm an ogre. It's like
exactly.
See, that's the problem. See, again, like, you can be insecure. Insecure is nothing's going to go away like that. But you gotta change it up and make it subtle. For pity's sake, make it subtle. But okay, but look, just seeing it for what it is here. So Shrek, essentially, Shrek. Again, bear in mind they don't execute this well, but what they're going for is that Shrek is accepted. Like, he is accepted after the second movie. Again, he's pretty much a celebrity at this point in the Shrek universe. But he's still an ogre who is not quite cut out for royal life as a king, which, again, as a starting point, like, I get. Okay, Shrek not cut out for royalty. Got it. And he's then faced with fatherhood, which results in him looking for a childish way out via the whole, I'm looking for the next guy in line. That's the plot we're going with in this movie for Shrek, where he's looking for the next guy in line for the throne because he doesn't want it. So again, like a child.
A weak motivation. It's such a weak, like, way to drive the plot forward. It's like honestly, Dragon, to me, it's like that's one of the main cruxes of what holds this movie back is just the plot just is boring. It's a boring plot.
Look at it from the grand scheme what we've had two films at this point, all right? We have two films that are so well paced and so well, like Shrek 1 is so, in 10 minutes, everything is set up perfectly. We set up Shrek and Donkey 20 minutes. We got a premise, like, it goes like that. Basically, there's a stall towards the third act, but it's all great. It's all so well paced. Shrek 2, it all builds to a zenith, and that's great. But this, like, right off the bat, they lost you. Within 5 minutes, they lost you. Like within 5 to 7 minutes, yep, we hit our first major speed bump, and now we have to basically we're picking up our bearings as we're moving along, and there's a giant hole in the boat, a giant hole in the cart. We're losing stuff as we're going along. It's all falling to pieces. So what we do here again,
it's kind of like oddly familiar to the feeling I get watching Cars 2, where I'm just like, yeah, okay, Pixar's had like a perfect track record up until this point, but can't call them perfect anymore, guys. This is not good.
Anyway, so let's see. So he's so basically Shrek is given a surrogate son, and it's a very on the nose idea, which is a problem as well. But you basically give him the surrogate son to deal with the whole having his doubts as a parent, essentially. Which again, the problem being there's no real correlation to teenager to baby to him becoming a father to the eventual. Like, I'm not saying you can't have a correlation there at all. What I'm saying is there's no correlation presented of, okay, he's trying to relate to this kid, but what is that saying? Like, we need to say something about Shrek in his teenage years that he has doubts about, but we're not doing any of that. It's just like it's completely unrelated events.
Would you agree with me that one of the most painful moments in the Shrek franchise is him trying to jive talk with Artie?
Well, it's definitely it's up there with it's a bad one. Yes, it is a very bad one. I don't know if it's the bad moment, but it's definitely Tiki. It might be. I'd say it's number 1 and number 2. It's up there. Yeah. Let's see. So ultimately he accepts the ultimate responsibility of parenthood, and importantly we see it's not as bad as he was afraid of. So again, the ultimate place that they go at the very end of the movie with him, being actually, he and Fiona being a team, being co-parents, that's all working out well for him. Again, it went to a nice place, but again, just a crap journey getting there.
Yeah, and you know what's funny, Dragon, is that I still haven't watched Shrek Goes Forth yet. I'm sorry, Shrek Goes Forth.
But that was going to be the title, though. That's the funny thing. You're not off.
I know it was going to be the title. We'll get to that in background. I have things to say about that. I still haven't watched that one. I still haven't watched that one yet. But to be fair, you just called it Shrek the Fourth a little while ago. Anyways.
Yeah, No, you're not wrong. I think I might have. Yeah. Anyway. No, I don't blame you though, because again, they have their title things. We'll get into it the fourth one. We're not going to get there yet.
But anyways, basically knowing what I know about how that movie starts, it pretty much renders the ending of Shrek the Third useless.
I mean, look. Here's the thing, T. It's such a small takeaway. There's nothing really to kind of erase there because okay, the babies are born. And it's not even a birth role. It's just like okay, we see him parenting. So, but actually,
the takeaway is that like Shrek and Fiona are like really happy with the parenting, and it's just all fun and games, and everything's awesome. And then we get to Shrek 4, and he's fucking miserable.
You know what? I'm sorry. Now you bring up. I'm now realizing. Yeah, you're right because we have that montage that shows them as the effective parents, then the whole drag of it all, and vice versa. So you're right. We do kind of erase the ending of this movie. So yes, the whole movie is quite pointless. Now you bring that
up. See.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yep. You got it. I'm not taking away. So last thing with Shrek here, just like a systemic problem where the movies are going here. So the systemic problem with Shrek here is that each film is a new way of Shrek doubting himself via a relatable situation. But again, here we're ham-fisted in the execution of, again, a relatable idea of, okay, doubts about fatherhood, worry about being a father. Importantly, Tiki, we seeded this in Shrek 2 in a really great way. So, Tiki, when I went into this movie, I heard, like, okay, Shrek becoming a father. That's an idea that we set up in Shrek 2 where, he chokes on the spoons. It's a bit early to be thinking about that. So, again, there's your seed, but we don't. We snow on the garden. We don't water it. We snow on it.
God.
Like an avalanche of terribleness. Anyway, so I guess let's talk about Fiona then.
Yeah, well, at least this time she's actually looking into the camera.
Yep.
um, man, I don't know. The thing with Fiona is that like the stuff that they do with the princesses, like it's entertaining on like a vaguely surface level, but it feels so disconnected from Shrek's storyline and even the theme of the movie that it's just kind of like whatever.
Here's the thing: we took a giant step back with Fiona because basically we went all the way back to Shrek One where we didn't need to, and I don't mean Shrek One in a negative context. I mean we went back to a facet of her character that we've been working through and we haven't really been dwelling on for a reason that we didn't really need to, where we basically all. She's becoming a mother. We're doing all the stuff that we could be doing with her. Instead of like dealing with motherhood and everything, we go to whole idea of like her basically bouncing the idea of what a princess's version versus the princess expectation, of like what she is as a how she identifies as a princess versus the expectation of all princesses. That's what they do with this movie. That's why we have all the other princesses and Fiona having the baby. Basically they use the motherhood thing, not looking into like the bigger implications of like, okay, you're worried that Shrek's having doubts about fatherhood, which again is an interesting issue that could be executed. I don't know how you execute that, but that could be executed. But what we're doing is nothing about that. We're just dwelling on like, hey, this gave you an excuse to have a baby shower, and that gives us an excuse to have all the old princesses. And okay, well, what do we do with all these princesses? Well, we know Fiona was kind of subverted the princess cliches, so let's do that again. But let's just make it more on the nose.
Yep, not great, not great.
And that's the thing. Like this movie's less about Shrek and Fiona. It's all about like let's just separate them and put them on their own separate adventures. Where again, Shrek 2, there was a point to that, and here it's just okay. Let's just separate them because if Fiona's with Shrek, then they would have a conversation. The movie would be over, and we can't have that.
And we basically get that illustrated with the whole, the scene where she's trying to yell that she's pregnant. Like, that's basically the movie saying directly, like, yep, folks, we need to get these people, apart for artificial reasons.
That's the thing that
conversation about this.
See that's the only thing in the movie for me off the top of my head that might rival the whole Shrek being trying to be hip here. The whole like Shrek, I'm pregnant. And we have this really bizarre scene where he hears her. See, this is the thing that kills us. So you have this scene where it's like, oh, I'm pregnant. You're thinking, oh, he didn't hear, but no, they actually said he heard her, and then they have to have like, oh, good, you too, yeah, just like what? Who staged this scene? Who thought this up? Like, why do it this way? So close to be censored with the curse word. Why?
Yep.
Oh, God, just anyway. So I mean, the only thing Fiona has going for here is, I guess, she's somewhat proactive in saving Shrek and protecting her family. Which, again, I mean, good for Fiona, but really, there's not a balance of story there, and we just need to give Fiona something to do. And doesn't really, again, basically, like she's leading the charge, but I'm not really invested in her at all in the movie.
I really do feel like the whole the princess subplot was just trailer fodder and nothing else.
Exactly, and I feel they're stuck with the trailer fodder, and that's all they have to work with. When that's not the case. They could have worked with stuff.
Dragon, what's a perfect kind of yin yang to this whole situation is the way they handle Vanellope's character in Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Well, yeah, but not everybody's seen that yet.
Well, I know I'm not giving away any plot spoilers with it or anything. I'm just saying, having seen it myself, that movie again very heavily marketed towards the princesses, and let's just say two very different outcomes with how I feel about the respective character arcs.
Okay. So let's see. So I mean, like, okay, just the one thing with Fiona here, and then we'll move on because really everything's gonna go by real fast after Fiona. Just for the record here, by the way.
Gee, how much do we possibly have to say about like fucking Charming basically being the same exact villain he was in the fucking second movie.
Okay, we'll get there. Let's not jump ahead. We'll blaze over him fast enough. All right, let's just. All right, okay, but with Fiona here, like the real thing that Fiona has going for her that's consistent is that she has the full acceptance of herself and her choices. I mean, that's like the one thing. She's the only character who's secure about starting a family. That's the one thing she has going with her. That she, again, bear in mind, I have to read into a lot of that, but that's the main thing that I think is. All right, again, they're not really making this direct because like we bring it up once, like Fiona, what was his reaction to the news, and then we have to assume, okay, I guess she's secure in her position about starting a family because she's not really worried about it throughout the rest of the movie. So I'm going to guess that everything's okay there.
Yep.
She's dictating the terms of what the new normal is for the princesses. I mean, again, I got to read into that a little bit, but I mean, that's what I kind of read from Fiona there, that she's saying, hey, we're princesses. We don't have to be like, per the norm there. I mean, she basically said to him, hey, watch the first Shrek movie, then you'll get it, and then we can move on with the story. That's pretty much what she said. Like, hey, watch the first one, and then let's move on.
All right.
Okay, so then we have, folks, this shows you there's not a lot here because we're just going to splice them together here, much like the movie tries to do. Donkey and Puss.
I mean, before we get to the whole body swap thing, which will probably take up most of the time, I imagine, just very simply, Donkey is just more annoying and more aggressively annoying and has less relevance to the plot. And Puss is just, to be nice about it, he's been domesticated, all right? He's just not, he doesn't have the edge to him that he had in the second movie by far.
Let me put it to you this way, Tiki. I think Puss and Donkey in this film, they are in this film purely because they're popular. That's the only reason they're in here. Like, they literally, they serve, you could take them out of this movie and you would not lose a thing. Think about it.
And to get to it, I mean, I truly do think that body swap subplot is one of the most pointless things I've ever seen in an animated movie. I mean, it leads to approximately one good joke with the donkey, puppy dog eyes. Like, that's the one good joke we get out of that whole.
That joke is funny. All right, I'll give you that. Okay, but
I mean, other than that, it's just there's no reason. It doesn't affect the plot at all. It takes absolutely no effort to revert back. Dragon, I'm vaguely curious. Did they? I'm kind of assuming they retconned the tail thing out of Shrek Goes Forth.
Well, they did, but if you want to be technical, at the very end of the movie, when they're doing their whole "thank you for letting me be myself," when they're doing that, they have their ordinary tails, to my recollection, which means they just even retconned it even at the end of the movie. So
okay, see, that's how lazy this fucking movie is. All right.
I could be wrong about it. I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty sure they were on, basically they used the standard animation models for those endings. I'm pretty sure. So again, I'm not 100%, but like 90, I'm 80% sure.
Also, man, the song choices in this movie are god awful, and
again, save some of that for later, Tico. Save the song stuff for later.
Okay.
We'll go. There's a lot of terrible stuff to go around here. We'll get there. All right. Anyway, but here's the thing. I meant to bring this up with Shrek 2, and I figured this would be a good opportunity to bring it up here. So let me say this with Donkey. Okay, so one of the things I liked about Donkey, and it's again, I think an idea they set up in Shrek 2 that you can kind of see in Shrek 3 here. They don't do anything with it, of course, but I think the idea that we have a Donkey here. I love that Donkey's always kind of a step ahead of Shrek's character arc, and that kind of allows. The way we use Donkey and Puss in this movie, they're kind of coming from two different perspectives of what Shrek's thinking. Again, these are all things we only spend like half of a scene doing anything with, and then we just forget about it for the rest of the movie. Half of a scene, really. Where Shrek's on the boat, he got the bad news. And, Donkey, again, I like the two perspectives. Donkey's the domesticated family man, and Puss is kind of the bachelor advising Shrek. Come on, you, me, you'll get away from it all. We'll go fishing. It'll be a boys' night. So again, that's all they really have to contribute. But again, with Donkey, in the grand scheme of the Shrek franchise, think about it. He and Shrek both got married. They both got into relationships at the same time. At the end of Shrek 2, Donkey had children. So I like that logically, the next movie, it was inevitability that Shrek was going to have kids because we had those two seeds planted. Shrek, being afraid of having kids and Donkey having kids. Therefore, they would be in this whole, like, I was expecting like a really sweet scene of like, we got like a glimpse at it, Tiki, and that's what bugs me. It's just like this little glimpse at Donkey gives Shrek good advice about having kids. And then, like, a second later, it's like Donkey's asking where the babies come from. Like, what? What?
Right.
Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, what?
Okay, what you pointed out right now, that's like a perfect example of just like the inconsistent and lazy writing in this movie. I mean, they just do not care. They just don't care at all.
Again, that's the cats. Look, I'm not just trying to throw Katzenberg under the bus. I'm just using it as the approximation. Thinking the DreamWorks kind of Katzenbergy version of "We Don't Care" is "I Don't Care" versus so like it's like the end of the movie where you take a few liberties, like we don't care. We love the movie up to this point. Just let anything fly. Any little plot holes if you really think about it, but it's fine as is. Like, we don't care. We're having such a good time. I don't care. Just do it. Katzenberg on his money hammock, just I don't care. Of course, on his hammock, he looks like the kid in the moon. That's the gag. There's like a moon-shaped hammock. Okay, anyway, so, but yeah, so the body switch of it all. So the idea is we take him to an insecure place with the body switch thing. Because I literally wrote my notes here, Tiki. We take them to an insecure place with the body switch. ... Because.
Yep.
And pretty much the whole they're taking shots at each other. Oh, Puss and Donkey, they don't get along all the time, and they make fun of each other. How do we spice that up? Put them in the other's body and make fun of the body. We've never seen that before, right? God.
Oh God. All right.
Anyway, like the only other character that warrants a rant, I guess, would be Artie.
Oh God, yeah. To me, Dragon, this is the part of the movie that I get the most emotional over. All right. As I said, I'll defend Justin Timberlake as an actor. Like, he hasn't done a ton since The Social Network, but his performance in The Social Network, one of my favorite movies of all time, just damn good. Hit the nail on the head. Fucking perfect antagonist for that story. Oh man, here. Oh, the voice acting is just. Oh God, Dre. Oh,
it's a lot to take in.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
He catches 1/10 of my pain right here, folks, with Artie. All right, but yes, Artie. God.
I mean, I think it's more painful for me because I'm actually a Timberlake supporter. And this is just, it's just like, no, Justin Timberlake, go back to singing. Like, you just, no, don't even try anymore.
I'm sorry, where to start here. I'm just, okay. All right, so let's see. So Artie, okay, so he's again, I'm just reading off my notes here to give you a taste of this, okay? So, social outcast, ... for reasons.
Yep.
Because again, related to the king, queen, and princess.
I mean, he's supposed to be more of a loser than like the Dungeons and Dragons neckbeards at his school.
That's what I'm saying. Like, look, if you're making a joke,
he's like a perfectly average-looking, well-put-together dude. You know what?
I don't get why. What's so wrong? A little bit wrong. I don't like the kid either, but I mean, I don't see a direct reason for it. I mean, he's just kind of weaselly and whiny, and I mean, again, if that's the case, I need that said. I'm getting nothing here. Like, why is literally everyone in the school hates this kid? Why? Like, he's a loser who's given up, but he's given up, and that's about the only thing I can glean. He's a non-character. He's a non-character.
He's a non-character who's just the ultimate plot vessel. Like, both in terms of getting the story started and in terms of ending the story, which ultimately might be the biggest sin in the whole movie, is the way they wrap the story up so conveniently.
But I mean, he's the non-plot entity that has daddy issues apparently that we only spend like one scene addressing. Okay, he's got daddy issues, and I don't care. I still don't care one iota. Okay, and it's just he basically got daddy issues about abandonment, which has caused doubts, and like all the doubts in his leadership potential, which I guess there's some, really no. And then the idea is he's avoiding his responsibility, like Shrek is right now. Figure that. And he's just, I mean, the only thing I really glean for Archie is that he's really not that bright overall, but he's a good speech maker in the universe of this movie, apparently, where apparently he makes
in the universe of this movie.
That's the thing. Apparently, that's all he has going for him. Which, again, I'm not getting any of that. But apparently, everybody when he talks, he listens. Again, that somehow underwrites the other weird speech of the movie. Like the two weird speeches of the movie, kind of combat. It's like a tornado canceling out the other tornado. You know, it's kind of like one of those things. And I mean, I guess the idea is that Shrek is the support to bolster Artie's confidence, and that's where they're going with it. But really, again, there's just so much not working with Artie here. Like, again, again, first and foremost, like, again, why is he an outcast? Because again, he's still in some relation to the royal family far, far away, the L.A. of fairy tale kingdoms, which is like the celebrities of like in all the land, I guess. And I'm like, why? And again, doing this with the King Arthur lore makes this really painful because the King Arthur lore really rocks. And when you tell that story right, it does. It's like, hey, I mean, don't get me wrong. Again, the whole story is like, we've seen it many, like Sword and Stone, for example, little, kind of thin little kid, again, not the coolest guy in the world. I get that. And I think that's what they're gleaming at, but they're really just not justifying why that is, which again, like, we saw he's a young kid, everybody turned the nose up at. Here it's like, here's the big problem. Here's where they kill it, Tiki. They put him in a high school, which is like he's on a very even playing field with so many other characters instead of like the whole adults and the one kid. That's why Sword and Stone works, and that's why this doesn't. Bear in mind, there are far many other good reasons why Sword of Stone works in this movie doesn't, but I'm just citing one of the glaring ones.
Sure.
All right, so, okay, enough of Ari. Let's talk about the other disappointment of the movie. Let's talk about Merlin.
To me, Dragon, this one hurts even more, all right?
I believe it.
This one had potential. Eric Idle, comedic, dare I say a comedic legend in some regards.
Another Monty Python actor in the Shrek universe, right?
Yeah. I'm a big Monty Python guy, so I really like Eric Idle. What he did to Journey into Imagination at Epcot, not such a big fan of, but I digress about that. But just the idea of having Merlin in the Shrek universe, it seems like a natural fit. It's not. It's really not. It's so wasted, Dragon. That's what it is. And just Merlin just comes off like a crusty old hippie who's had too many hits of LSD.
Basically, he's Doc Brown with a nervous. Basically, it's like they're parodying Doc Brown with a nervous breakdown as a magic teacher who's very hippie-like and just very strange, eccentric. It's just really. It's basically it's the most cynical take you could have on Merlin, which is disappointing.
Yeah, and I mean, you can do a cynical take on Merlin and have it be funny, but this is just, I don't know, it's...
Like, you would imagine, like, let me ask you this. You would imagine, like, a proper, like a smarter, cynical take that you'd expect from Shrek would be something like, Shrek is on his adventure, let's say, a completely differently written, differently structured, better adventure. He's on an adventure. He comes across Merlin, and the gag we'd have is that basically, what if Merlin again? It's not. I'm just going to give you the simple way of it here. It's like a Rick and Morty dynamic, where it's Merlin as the teacher of young Arthur, and basically, man, you're really being reckless with that kid, aren't you? Oh, he's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like, that's what you would expect, something along those lines. Where like, okay, Shrek would have like a commentary on like, yeah, it was really, it's a really reckless tale. It's a really
that's what bothers me is that Merlin and Arthur have next to no interaction with each other.
And apparently, again, like they're doing this is why I bring up the Doc Brown comparison, Tiki, because it's literally like, okay, it's like how Doc and Marty know each other. That's the idea here, that he was the professor that taught Artie, therefore they know each other. And basically, it's Tiki. Here's again the bigger insult of Artie is that it's almost like they're trying to sell him as like a Marty McFly type in some capacity, where he's really not. Really not.
Yep, just Eric Idle is just plain baseline Eric Idle. He's not really doing anything. Like this Eric Idle performance might as well be Eric Idle from Journey into Imagination. You know what I mean?
So they called Eric Idle and says, "Okay, Eric, can you riff a little bit? Just do some Monty Python stuff. Do you have any direction aside from that? Just no, just go with it. You know,
Exactly, exactly.
So basically, phone it in. Yeah, just phone it and go on. Just go nuts. Either way, just basically, we like that you showed up, but you really didn't have to. But while you're here, just sit in front of the mic. Anyway.
All right. So let's get to Lillian and Harold, I guess.
It's really not. Sorry?
I just said I guess. Like,
yeah, there's really not a lot there. Just like,
I mean, I will say that one of the more funny moments in the movie was Lillian being a total badass.
You know what's funny? When she basically breaks through the walls with her head, when she gets dazed and confused, she basically when she's all kind of concussed from it, she's humming Mary Poppins songs.
Okay, that might be the whole bit with her being concussed. I didn't notice the Mary Poppins song thing.
Yeah, like I believe she I think she's mixing. She either says two songs or like I know I heard that she's kind of saying just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down if you listen really closely. But it's like it's something there. It's like there's a few. Yeah, they do that one.
Okay, regardless, that might be the biggest laugh in the movie for me, which isn't really saying a ton. It's not like a fucking gut buster or anything, but it got a chuckle out of me.
I legitimately think there's one good scene in this movie. That's how bad it is. I think there's one good scene, and you have a few chuckles here and there, but there's one legitimately good scene in this movie that we'll get to very shortly.
Okay.
But here, okay, but there's one good scene. There's one. Okay, fine. There's one legitimately good scene. There's one scene that I like, and I'll talk about the scene I like right now. One of the scenes I like. Yep.
I hope you're not talking about the funeral.
Well, I was going to talk about the whole death of King Harold, but So.
Oh, okay, yeah, that was a legitimately good scene.
We're still going to butt heads a little bit on that part, but mainly the scene I want to talk about, the good stuff I want to talk about is the death of, again, the potential that the movie had for me is with King Harold, and that literally died. So all my hope in the movie kind of died in a way. That's King Harold here because I think John Cleese delivered some really beautiful acting, and again, kind of Monty Python-esque acting in like the death of, again, kind of the elongated death of King Harold. I just kept dying and looking dead, like put your hat on, fool. all that sort of humor. I love that he went out on kind of a Monty Python gag, which is quite funny. But importantly, the dramatic, kind of John Cleese passing away and having fully supported Shrek, and Shrek actually having developed like a fatherly bond with King Harold, I thought was really beautiful.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, that kind of dynamic, it's like I wish the whole movie was that dynamic.
See, I mean, like, here's the thing. Like, starting the movie at a place of, okay, so King Harold's taken ill and Shrek has to step into the role of king, but he's doing that because he likes King Harold. That, to me, that's a great conflict. Okay, how is Shrek going to make do with this situation? It's a really tough situation to be in, but then we completely underwrite that with he wants out of this, and it just seems really completely disrespectful to the really sweet scene they presented before us here. Like, literally, the guy's on his deathbed, and he's asking for a way out.
Mm-hmm.
And that bothers me. But again, like I feel all the potential, all the missed opportunities. Literally, that scene to me is the tipping point for the entire movie. And I think so. There's some good with that with the King Harold side of it all, but again, it all just kind of goes belly up.
All right.
Let's see next.
So I guess quickly with the side characters, I guess.
Yeah, so I'll make it simple. All right, let's basically all the side characters really they share one big scene.
Uh-huh.
All basically Shrek's gang. Gingy, Pinocchio, Three Pigs, Three Blind Mice, and the Wolf. All those guys. That's the one legitimately good scene in the movie, I think. There's one good scene in the movie. It's when Charming storms the place, and they help the princesses, and they help Fiona and her friends escape by basically holding off the guys with the distraction. They basically hold this little tea party, and then hold. I love
the logic of Pinocchio, like working his way around telling a lie.
That's the thing. See, I think all the only good writing in the entire film is in that scene because you have some fun gags and the characters have learned stuff. It's like the only growth. I think it's the growth they have in the entire Shrek franchise. One of the great scenes they have there because Pinocchio's learned how to lie without lying. Very smart, early, well written gag, and early again that's a brilliant Pinocchio joke that we've never seen before. I love it. And Gingy
Is
being
this also where we get the Gingy flashback?
yes.
Gingy!
Yes, we have like Gingy's life flash again. Gingy being the tough cookie that he is, he sticks up to. You're the king of duty. It's like you're the king of nothing, and then of course Captain Hookie's threatening him, and his life flashes before his eyes hilariously, and he's like, oh, we just have this flash of all these phenomenal, hilarious gingerbread moments, including like this. His girlfriend being eaten, I believe, by Santa Claus. Like I keep thinking of the Christmas special that I'm trying to think if they actually worked that into that, but I'm pretty sure they pulled. I'm pretty sure that's sorry. I'm pretty sure when they did the Shrek Christmas special, they were pulling from this scene in the movie. So I'm pretty sure the two are directly correlated. My point is like we have a little appearance by Lord Farquaad real quick about he's breaking off the legs and everything. It's great. Again, like all the best humor in the movie, and then the pigs is kind of like.
I love when you say it's great, like almost begrudgingly, like almost like you don't like the fact that it's great because it's like it is. It's a genuinely really well put together Shrek moment, and it doesn't deserve to be in this movie.
It's the shallows part of the whole film, Tiki. It's like the shallows where you're on that little safe bit of land of comedy and goodness and Shrekness, and then you're in an ocean of not Shrek. It's the shallows of Shrek. That's the effect we have here. The one good scene, the one good solace in the movie that there's nothing wrong with this scene. The three little pigs they lose it, and they show they're truly useless in a crisis situation. And they're there for food, there for the crisis situation. That's exactly what a lot of the three little pigs are, and they're just like there. They basically snap as Pinocchio's driving him insane with how clever he's being. Where he's just kind of going into this whole semantical like thing of like, do I not know where they were at? I don't, because again, all that's great. And then the pigs basically lose and they sell them out. Like that's all great, legitimately. That's fun. That's the only legitimate like. Okay, that felt like a Shrek movie.
Yeah,
everything else just like a one of those scripts that you send to Hollywood that you just see made.
It's like basically every scene in Shrek 2, by all intents and purposes, has that energy going for it. You know what I mean?
We basically turned Shrek into a watered down version of Due Date with this movie. That's pretty much what we did.
Oh man, ooh.
Where it's like, okay, we got to get there before the babies are born. In this case, again, like the babies, we don't even have the babies being born, and I guess that's the only trope that they did subvert in the whole movie, really, when you think about it. But it's like, okay, we're going on a road trip, and these two conflicting personalities, Artie and the kid and Shrek, they bond as the movie goes on, and it is still again they're still both kind of annoying.
They literally have one scene of bonding, Dragon.
You're right.
One.
Yep, and they're both like, yeah. Exactly.
I'm sorry. No, we're opening a can of worms here. We'll get to it on.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, but anyway, we're almost done with the. Okay, last. Okay, so basically that's all. I think it's all the Shrek's gang there. So let's see, beyond Shrek's gang. Okay, here. Oh wait, here's the other good part of the movie. Okay, the other good part of the movie.
Every time Doris shows up, it's like a bright ray of light. It's like in from another movie to help this movie.
Exactly. Yes, Larry King helped save this movie, not by much, but he helped get the audience member through. Like that one guy like you or I going into this movie, we're either bored or we're either like suffering, and it's like someone save. It's like we're in our minds we're thinking back to Shrek to the whole "we need a hero," and it's Larry King coming to save us. I know that sounds ridiculous, but folks, the movie's done that to us. All right, it's just. No, but seriously, Doris is a lot of fun. It's again like we had the fun little introduction to Doris. I'm so glad Doris came back, and the idea that they basically played Doris like Blanche from the Golden, like Blanche or like God, I'm trying to basically B. Arthur from the Golden Girls. They kind of play her like that, where she's like in the masculine yet the most feminine of all of them, the most well-rounded of all the female characters in the movie is Doris. But I love that. I love that Doris has come from being like kind of the tough barkeep. But again, he was never rooting against Shrek, but just kind of like helped facilitate. She introduced Puss into Shrek and Shrek's life in a way. And importantly, she's championing the Shrek and Fiona relationship. I love that. What was it? What was Shrek's reaction when you told him the news? It's like, God, it's great.
Yeah, I kind of wish she was in even more of it. She has more to do than in Shrek 2, but still, given the fact that she's like a savior of the movie, she doesn't get as much to do as she should.
Yeah, I mean, I like that again. She's kind of representative of a good part of Shrek here, where again, we're taking someone who was on the side of the villains, and now she's kind of come full circle, and she's kind of, again, it's a nice little mini redemptive arc about Doris. Like, if you pay attention to it, you'll see it. If not, it's just going to be there, and it's like, okay, we brought Doris back into the action. I'll tell you this, I think it's a happy accident we had Doris like this, Teague. I think it's a happy accident because, hey, let's get Larry King back in the movie because that was a big, we had a big celebrity in the other one, so let's just get him back in this one again. Yeah, we like working with Larry King. I think that was just completely why she's in this movie, but I'm glad she's there.
And Larry Key's dry delivery just kind of sells the character without much effort.
But that's the funny thing too, is that again, like he had the dry delivery purely in the other movie, but here he's just doing even more ridiculous things. Oh, that's charming. Right. Like, I love that he's investing more in the lines. That he's bringing even more energy to it. With the whole like, what was Shrek's reaction when you told? He's like, it's like a little schoolgirl. Larry King is a little schoolgirl. That's amazing.
Oh man, good stuff. Good stuff.
That's okay. Okay, so folks, again, that's pretty much all the positive stuff. So it's good. Okay, let's. Oh boy. Okay, so let's see. So after, all right, let's talk about the princesses.
Yep. Not much there to go on, really, Dragon. I don't like. Do we have to even talk about them separately?
Let's glob them together. So there's the Snow White, the Cinderella, and the Sleeping Beauty. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Snow White, they don't really do anything with. Granted, I will say the gag at the very end of the movie where the babysitter dwarf shows back up is really funny.
Eh.
I mean, I guess I laughed harder at it than you did.
I think you really did.
Sleeping Beauty, they had some decent like sleeping animation with her. I thought they did some okay stuff with that whole concept where she's like kind of like standing up and she's always half asleep.
Basically, she's narcoleptic. They did Sleeping Beauty as narcoleptic, which is so.
And then I'm sorry, not Cinderella. She was okay. I thought that one scene where she had the split personality in the puddle was really out of left field, and they didn't really do anything with it.
Yeah, you're right. But here's the thing: I kind of like Cinderella out of the three of them because just like she's kind of hard on herself, and I don't know. I just kind of like this. Basically they had the cynical approach to the princesses, where all the princesses have problems as well, and they all again. It's a very it's a very cynical approach on them. A very irreverent take on them, where Snow White just very shallow and she's very again surface level, and she's giving away dwarfs like just no tomorrow. Oh, I have 6 at home, just all the same. And she's giving them away like prizes.
Mm-hmm.
And basically like the main thing that Snow White has, like she uses her animal singing skills to she's the one who's perfected the animal singing trick to kind of summon an army when she sings like Led Zeppelin, pretty much.
Yep.
That's about literally. That's all they really have there, folks. It's about it. So, again, let me put it to you this way. All right, I'm gonna go deep with this, man. So, Legend of Tarzan had an episode that recycled. Again, this is one of the most recycled premises ever. But the Legend of Tarzan did this best, man. Where Jane's friends, like her 3, very prim and proper English friends, come visit them in the jungle. And basically they're trapped in a really dire situation, and Jane tears up their dresses, says, "Okay, guys, you're gonna survive. You gotta live like me. You gotta stop acting all prim and proper. If we're gonna get through this alive, you gotta drop all that. We gotta pull ourselves together. Like, don't freak out, don't get hysterical. We'll live through this situation." A really good episode. And again, that's how you do that story. And again, we've watered down, we've diluted to we basically do that story here in not even 5 minutes, in 3 minutes, we do that story.
Pretty much.
And not even well. It's just like, okay, we're burning the bra. So on the nose. We're burning a very inaccurate bra. Because there was symbolism. We need to really hammer in the feminism of, yeah, the old princesses you knew are dead. Anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
Dragon, I feel like Charming is the main villain of this
Yeah.
movie. It's like a what?
No, I agree with you.
It's kind of just like a perfect representation of this movie was not trying and it was lazy.
Yep.
Because it's not even in like I feel like the interesting thing to do with Charming would be to kind of have him go the route of like kind of like the rogue anti-hero in this movie where he's not necessarily evil. He's kind of he's maybe like teaming up with Shrek and Fiona to stop a greater evil. But no, like he's literally on the exact same wavelength that he was in the second movie. I mean, he's like there's nothing that's changed about him at all. He's not even like scary or anything like that. He's just as pathetic for the most part as he was in the second movie.
I gotta tell you, it's just he's far worse than he was in the second movie to me. I just feel the second movie was far again. The second movie he had the counterbalance of the fairy godmother. We've taken that away from him, so now he's just more pathetic.
That's what I'm saying. He's just like the less interesting equivalent. I mean, I'm trying to think of like, it'd be like if they did a Spider-Man 4 and only Sandman was the villain. Like, okay, guys, we're just gonna give you the least interesting villain of the last movie, but he's gonna be the only villain you get.
Well, I don't know if that's quite fair to you, because I mean, Venom in that movie is far more unsatisfying than Sandman.
Well, I'm just saying Venom at least with Venom, the audience had like, I'm sorry, Sandman just felt the least connected to the plot out of everyone in that movie, but I digress.
Anyway, yeah, with Charming, here's the thing. Here's the frustrating thing about Charming, Tiki. Another frustrating thing about the movie is that I'm intrigued. I kind of like how we introduce him, but we don't. It's really uneven what we do with him in the movie, because we explore what happens to an unfulfilled fairy tale character with Charming, and I think that's an interesting starting place. When we see him doing dinner theater, that's reenacting the story that he could never make happen, that he could never fulfill his fairy tale in life, so he fulfills it in dinner theater, which is like the medieval times equivalent of Shrek, and it's like, which is funny. It's not even medieval times. It's more embarrassing. The medieval times could be cool in the Shrek universe, but it's just it's a far more pathetic version of dinner theater. So again, I kind of like, if we're gonna bring Charm back, I kind of like that we're making fun of him like that, and because it's kind of funny. It's just like seeing what happened to Charming there. But then we're trying to do this thing where he's becoming a traditional villain seeking revenge, and the idea was,
he's like just the most standard stock villain at that point. He's just like, and I feel like he takes over the kingdom way too easily too. That's another
thing. I agree with it. Yes, like there's nothing to fear with Charming. He's just sometimes he gets a sword in his hands, and that's about it. It's like, okay, well, now we might be in some danger here, but you can get to him before the sword,
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. Like the only thing I can glean from Charming is that he became an outcast because of Shrek, and he's forcing his way back. And again, these are the inklings of story that we get that we don't quite do anything with. It's just like he's forcing his way back, but why? I mean, he's just he wants to be king, but I mean, what is his reason for being king? Everybody hates him. Nobody likes him anymore. Like, what are you trying to glean from this? Why would you want to become king at this point? It's basically, we brought Charming back without a plan at all what to do with him, and it shows big time. Like, the only thing they had an idea was, okay, let's just do this really clever dinner theater thing that reenacts the opening of Shrek 2, and then we ran out of steam.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, so bridging off that, we have Rapunzel. Bear in mind, this is all pre-Tangled, and I believe the idea is that pre-Tangled, Rapunzel was not a top-tier princess. And
isn't it funny how now she's like maybe like in the top 5 most popular Disney princesses?
Well, she's got a good animated series on too right now. So the interesting thing with Rapunzel, and again, they don't do anything really with this, but it's there a little bit. Now, what I like is that they really could. It frustrates me ever so, Tiki, because we set up Rapunzel in Shrek 2 in a really clever way, where Fiona was childhood friends with Rapunzel as a princess, and of course Fiona is borrowing a lot from the Rapunzel story, where she's kept in a, she's kind of kept in the Dragon's, sorry, not a Dragon's Keep, but Fiona was kept in the Dragon's Keep,
Yeah,
and Rapunzel's kept in the tall tower, all of that. Again, she's kind of like
but you
Fiona.
see, the problem with that dragon is, in order to flesh out a dynamic like that, it would actually require effort.
It would, and then here's the thing with the princesses as a whole. All right, the problem with introducing more princesses beyond like the whole dating game gag of the first movie is that when you really start to think about it and you peel back the layers, you realize that okay, Fiona's kind of an amalgamation of princesses that we're saying new things about. But if we introduce the
And that's why
inspirations,
Fiona worked as well as she did, honestly, is because she was, she had a lot of traits of princesses we were familiar with, but she was her own thing.
and think about it, then when we introduce at least half of those princesses in this very movie, Rapunzel and Snow White, the whole bird singing gag, and, the singing to the animals gag and the whole locked in the tower gag, we do all of that, and again, like what again, they were up against the wall with Rapunzel, so they couldn't. And it's such a shame because Maya Rudolph does. They had a lot of SNL talent doing the voice of these princesses, which makes me feel really bad. There's good people playing these princesses, yet again, nothing coming from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like she kind of turns again. She turns against Fiona and the gang to kind of because she wants to be famous with Charming, and that's kind of why she kind of turns bad guy and kind of allies herself with Charming. We don't do a thing with that. And okay, what are we gonna do with her? Okay, what if she was bald? What's we need something irreverent with Rapunzel. Okay, I'll make her a bad guy, and we'll make her bald because that's her comeuppance, right? Yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because bald's easy to do in animation, right? Yeah, it is. Let's do that. Why don't we make them all bald? All right. Okay, so then real quick, the rest of these had better go rapid fire. Okay, so then we have the rest. You lead us through these guys.
All right, Captain Hook. He plays the piano again. To be fair, though, I do again. One of the chuckles I got out of this movie was the end speech in itself is terrible, but I do get enjoyment out of Hook's like, I grow daisies, and they're beautiful.
I love giving him hobbies and these little side quests, but again, it's the logic of the whole movie is that we cancel out both speeches, and it just makes no sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Then we have the evil queen.
Yeah, I'm struggling to think of what we even do with the evil queen.
In all fairness, folks, just for any Once Upon a Time fans out there, the only evil queen I care about is Alana Parrilla. That's the only evil queen I care about. But
Headless Horseman. Yeah, what the hell does he do?
well, he gets DUIs, Tiki.
Sure.
Well, he did.
And then the biggest head scratcher dragon, fucking Rumpelstiltskin. Man, I don't get it. I don't get it, man.
Well, so of course, the Rumple. Basically, Charming calls him out in the movie here, saying, "What about that firstborn you were promised, Rumple?" And of course, the next movie we pretty much wash away all of that Rumpelstiltskin story when we reintroduce Rumple in the fourth movie. But I guess they essentially what happened was, Tiki, is that this movie. And again, I don't think I'm exaggerating this because really no one talks about this movie, and they try to avoid this movie like the plague. In any, I can't tell you how many documentaries they had. Again, Shrek 4 is chock full of features, man. It is, and features that look over the retrospective of the 4 Shrek movies. But I should properly say the 3 Shrek movies because they completely skip over the third one in all those in all of those clips. You see barely maybe a clip or 2, but they're doing nothing with Shrek the Third for this very reason. They knew they had nothing with this movie, and they again. I think it goes without saying when they do Rumpelstiltskin, they're just trying to well, we want a fairy tale character. We really dropped the ball with Rumpelstiltskin there. We didn't do anything with him. We're obviously not going to use that version. So let's just do him from the ground up because we want to do actual stuff with that character. We need a deal maker character. Let's go with Rumple.
I mean, yeah, I guess if you need a deal maker character, sure. I mean, I'm just saying, man, like, to me, it annoys me on a continuity level. It really does. It drives me crazy.
You're not wrong to be driven crazy. You're absolutely. I don't blame you.
Because it's why not just go with another character? Like, I mean, like you just said, I get that you want a deal maker. I get that, but I mean, I don't know. It's
Here's the thing: they'll never comp to it, but a part of me really hopes it's because they love Once Upon a Time. Because Rumpelstiltskin, as you know, even from the half season that you did see along with me, well, now I've watched it all except for that last really crappy reboot season. But I've now watched it all. Um, but Rumpelstiltskin is the huge big bad of that show. The whole like kind of the Vegeta of that show. Essentially, that's kind of what they do. Rumpelstiltskin,
oh,
and I would love to think that they can't say it because it probably they probably can't say it because of the whole ABC Disney of it all there. But I'd love to think that's the main reason they want to do Rumpelstiltskin again. You know what? We love that show. We love that deal maker side of them. Let's just do that again. Let's just pull that guy. Just screw. No one saw Shrek the Third. Of course, not realizing that hey, all the funding for the new Shrek movie came from Shrek the Third, right? All right.
all right. And finally, Mabel, played by Regis Philbin. I mean, it's a fun idea.
Yeah, not as good as what we have with Larry King, but I mean, I'll give him props here. Hey, because there are two ugly stepsisters. At least we saw the other one. Didn't do anything with the Cinderella doll, but okay. Right.
I do like that brief moment at the end where Mabel and Doris reconnect.
Yeah, that's cute. All right.
Okay, here we go. Pros and cons.
So as you can imagine, the pros are going to be very small and few between.
Oh God, I mean, there's standalone gags that work in this movie, Dragon. There are standalone gags that work in this movie. That's about the kindest thing I have to say about it.
So yeah, basically in regards to the standalone bits that work, I mean, there's standalone bits that work. You have again like the whole Shrek's gang standing up to Charming, seeing the whole light flashing before the eyes. Basically, that whole scene with Shrek's pals. There are two other scenes. There's that scene. There's the fate of Charming at the very top of the movie. Like the whole him as the dinner theater actor. It's kind of funny. And there's one other really legitimately funny bit in the movie that I love, and it's more for a meta purpose, but I do love it. Where Shrek acts famous. And it's like the only good scene that Justin Timberlake has, but it's not. It gets easily overshined by Eddie Murphy in this scene, where we have they're surrounded by guards. They're on the lookout for him, and basically they see the poster of basically Shrek the musical, which is in essence it's what it is. In essence, it's Shrek the musical, which is kind of the meta contextual gag. And I don't even think it was around at that point when they were making it. I'm not entirely sure when Shrek the musical was initiated, but the point is. They're surrounded by guards, and they have to. Basically, Shrek's about to be taken in, so then they act like he's a diva, and they say, "Oh, like what? You're gonna make him late. My client only works. Basically, has like all these conditions and write-offs and things." And then it's Eddie Murphy hilariously improvising to say, "We need, we need like this, like the peanut butter or something. We need there's honey butter. It's like honey butter or something." And I mean, I guess broadly, those are like the three scenes. Like, those are a few of the really the only three great scenes I can think of in the movie. But beyond that, I mean, I like Shrek heckling Charming on stage. That's kind of funny.
Sure.
Again, not really enthused by that, but of course, like the whole death of King Harold scene. And okay, this is where we're going to get into a little bit here. I don't hate the funeral scene. I don't hate the funeral.
Okay, here's the thing, Dragon. This can transition into my assuming you don't have any other pros.
Well, look, I think I might have one more, so let me just get that out of the chamber. Then we'll
Okay.
Okay, I think the main again, there's so few folks here. The missed opportunity though, and again, this will definitely work along the whole con thing too, is that I think the biggest missed opportunity in the movie that they kind of flirt with, and I like that they went here, but they really did not go far enough with it, is exploring fatherhood and responsibility is a good idea. And we do have this one line about Shrek's father that I feel if they really pulled on this, we could have gotten a movie out of this. Again, Tiki, they're so dead set on talking about Shrek's past and what got him to the swamp, and they're dying to make the fifth movie. And what they should have done is told the fifth movie within the third movie. They should have just told us. They mentioned that Shrek's father was an ogre who tried to eat him once. Now, I don't know if he's joking or not. If he's not joking, that's very interesting. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the thing. I wish they just relayed that to. Imagine if we had flashbacks. That I'm not trying to say like, look, rewriting the movie only goes so far in this, but I'm just saying like, if Shrek having an insecurity about being an ogre father, what if we had a reason for that? And the reason for that would be that we see, or we either have it told to us more so, or we see it play out in flashback of what Shrek's father was like with him, and we see why Shrek's afraid. Imagine how good a movie that could have been.
I mean, that's where you're getting into like Toy Story 3 territory right there. You know what I
That
mean?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. And imagine how more fulfilling that would be. Then he has the kids at the end. It's like, okay, if you believe in Shrek, like the movie would hopefully get you to at that point, then you'd be, okay, Shrek, we know you got it in you, buddy. Be the best father you can be. Yeah. But none of that happens.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and I like the band playing Hey Now You're an All-Star. It's kind of neat. Like the one thing I like in the high school stuff, it's like, yeah, they're playing, they're playing Smash Mouth. You're an All-Star. It's kind of nice. Like the only one good thing that came from that band scene, and really, it's so funny. Literally, that's the only thing they really talk about the high school stuff on the bonus features. Like, hey, we got this marching band in here to play. Hey, now you're an all star because it's a popular thing in all the high schools. And Shrek came out. We worked that into the movie, aren't we clever?
Uh-huh.
All right, okay, yeah. So let's get in the funeral scene going.
Okay, so the funeral scene, it's a decent scene, Drake. I'm not going to call it a bad scene per se. I just hate the song choice.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't disagree that it's not the best song choice, but I'm not bothered by a lot of people because, and again, bear in mind, I'll be really harsh on this movie. That says something if I'm going to bat for this even a little bit. But I mean, again, Live or Let Die. I don't know what it is, Tiki, but it's again. I think the scene's really well animated. It's dour, and I think we had a really great final scene with King. Here, I think it's all the elements of the scene that make it work. I'm not saying it's
I mean,
delivering, but
Live
I'm
and
saying
Let Die is just not a funeral song, Drake. That's what bothers me about it. It's literally a James Bond song. It's like to me, it's like there's a big difference between choosing a song like All Star or I'm a Believer, which fit so well into the original Shrek movie that you would swear that they were written specifically for the movie, into fucking like, okay, let's see, we want a song with the word die in the title. Live and Let Die, sure, why not?
I don't think you're wrong about any of that, Tiki. But just saying for what we have with it is that it's definitely not the most befitting song. I won't contest that, but I will say the music, like the music in it, just feels like they had that the whole after Live or Let Die, the boom boom, like the way that plays in the scene works for me. But again,
Like
it's
I
not.
said, all that is fine. The frog chorus of the bombs is fine.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's the thing that worked.
The
That.
song choice itself is weak. That's all I have a problem with.
All right. Okay, I thought you were gonna have a bigger problem with it than that, but okay.
No, it's literally just a lazy song choice.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
I really don't like the song choice at the end. Again, it's first of all, why are Puss and Donkey so happy about the whole circumstance when like the song, it sounds vaguely like they're singing about how the experience changed them for the better, and yet the whole experience to them was just not good at all. So I don't get it. It's just not, the song choices in general in this movie are just lazy, and they lack the thematic integrity. They lack the thought. They're just slapped in there just to have songs.
Here's the weird thing, Tiki. Okay, and again, I want to make clear you are not wrong about any of this. Again, like it's so disconnected. It's literally Tiki. It just shows you that they literally wanted to do this for a cash grab moment. Where okay, the last movie was the most successful of all the movies, and it had singing Puss and Donkey at the end of it. So let's do that again, but we can't work it into the movie because it ends with the whole quiet, like they're sleeping with the three kids. Like, okay, but what we need is like we can play it during the credits. It's like completely disconnected from the movie. I like the song, and it's like, hey, Puss and Donkey. It's like a novelty. I like it in a novelty capacity. Like, hey, look at them singing that song. It has no correlation or context, but it's like vaguely okay. So they sacrifice. They're like a whole movie based on in a whole movie the lazy premise of Donkey and Puss switch places, that would be more justified. But here it's just again not the final note you wanted.
One of the things that really kind of amazed me rewatching the movie is that the body switch happens with like 20 minutes left in the whole runtime.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Then we're working like more inappropriate choices like Barracuda for no real reasons. Like, okay, why are we doing Barracuda?
I mean, like maybe the immigrant song might have been the best song choice in the movie. Maybe.
Basically,
I mean,
if you're
even then, Ragnarok does that song 1,000 times better.
and this is years earlier, so they didn't know.
Well, I know, but
No, you're not
I'm
wrong. I
just
agree.
that's an example of how to do that song really well.
Basically, it kind of fits in like one of the few good ideas, I guess. Like if you're gonna do an irreverent take on Snow White, let's give her like a really metal song. So yeah, so, I mean, yeah, I buy that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. God. Other than that, again, I just want to underline Justin Timberlake's performance is just so lazy, and so it's like a non-performance, man. It's just it's basically the equivalent to like a bad comedian reading cue cards and on SNL, and you can clearly tell he's reading the cue cards. You know,
And basically, you missed this when I was saying earlier, Tiki. But basically, I compared the whole Justin Timberlake situation to a Richard Pryor. It's literally a Richard Pryor situation where it was topical and he was involved with Cameron Diaz at the time, so they worked him in the movie, and then they broke up during the course of the movie, and they were stuck with him.
genius, fucking. Also, I love how he's the fucking cousin of Cameron Diaz's character. Geniuses.
I know it just and here's the ridiculous part. Now we're getting the content. Okay, here's where it gets stupid, even worse. Okay, you're ready for this? They don't even share a word of dialogue with each other.
Nope, not one.
And they're related.
Are they even in the same room at the same time at any
The
point?
ending, the ending, that's the only scene they're even in the same space together. Here's the thing, they're cousins, and the whole again. Why wouldn't they bring her along? Why wouldn't they again? The dumbest reason for a separation between the Shrek story and the Fiona story is like, why wouldn't she go along to convince her cousin to fill in? Why?
Yep.
So again, overall, there's huge missed opportunities all over the movie, which I kind of again, big one being the whole fatherhood, Shrek's past name.
I mean, can we just talk about how fucking lazy that resolution is, like in more detail? Can we really break that down and put it under the knife?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, it's just like, okay, let's just compare all the Shrek finales thus far, shall we? All right, like
Okay.
Shrek epic race against time. You have a wedding. You have the big reveal of Fiona being an ogre in front of Shrek. You have kind of the shock of Farquaad just randomly being eaten.
Yeah, eaten by a dragon. That's a good finale.
Yeah, of course, Shrek 2 builds to that big apex with the giant gingerbread man and the I need a hero moment and just really gets your fist pumping.
Living of Vida Loca, it's all coming together. So then we have this movie, which
it's like you can see the disconnect, right? And you can just see like it's just like they're just Justin Timberlake delivers like a half-assed, poorly acted speech, and that's it. That's what resolves the whole conflict. That it's just everything is fixed.
Well, remember, it's that. Then we have kind of a Hallmark ad with ogre babies. It's pretty much. It's like, okay, disappointing speech followed by ogre babies because we needed because it was advertising and it was in all the marketing with the little baby carriage. We have to show the ogre babies.
Yeah.
Literally because they had to sell toys, Tiki. There were so many ogre baby toys when the movie came out. It was so. Oh god.
Which is kind of ironic because I just like the design on those ogre babies are they are not pleasant to look at, man.
It's really funny, Tiki, in the in kind of the retrospective credits of Shrek the Fourth. They actually make fun of the ogre baby design for a bit. It's really funny, but we'll get there obviously with the next movie. So
I mean, it's like with a marketable character, a character that you're really trying to push out like that. Like Draken, you know how much I fucking hate the Minions.
Yeah, and of course I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum on that. But yes, I understand you do have a brand distaste.
But I'm going to defend the Minions here because as much as I hate the Minions, at the very least, I understand why the Minions are a draw for so many people because, at least from a character design point of view, because, they're like, they have the primary colors, the blue and the yellow. That's very appealing to the eye. You have the very simple shape. You have the different variations on the Minions. The ogre babies are like the exact opposite of that. They're just like they're ugly, they're uncanny valley, they're They have an unpleasant color to them. It's just not pleasing. Like I said, at the very least, on kind of like a scientific, like fundamental, like how your eyes reacts to vision kind of level, I can see the minions being appealing, but the ogre babies they're just not at all.
Yeah, let me put it to you this way. So the one thing I want to say in the Ogre Babies is as a whole, not for this movie, but just as a whole as a concept, is that they can be done right. We've seen them done right in other things. It's just this introduction is just was really not handled well. And well, like the main takeaway to the show, like again, they give again, as much as I really don't feel like giving it, but like look, if you want to give it the one fair shot, is that the it gets to a place where Shrek and Fiona are like working together as a team, raising kids, and then again, the whole thing of parenthood is not as bad as you had feared it was. Like that's the one takeaway from all of that. But again, it's not really warranted at all. And of course, let me put it this way:
and also, I feel like that kind of dangerously sets up unrealistic expectations for what parenthood is actually going to be like.
Yeah, of course, with 3 kids too, it's 3 times as much.
Yeah, exactly.
We do, yeah. You're right. There's somewhat of a dangerous precedent set there. And let me just put it to you this way, right? I think the ogre babies have been handled better everywhere else but here, and this is where they're introduced. I mean, how sad is that?
Yep.
Like, the next movie does something really, they're going to use them very sparingly in the next one, but they do it really well. But
anyway. Okay, I will say the baby carriage scene might be the best example I can think of in an animated movie of crude humor just going too far.
Yes.
Would you agree?
I would agree. I would agree that it's all very unnecessary and just it's purely nightmare fodder. That's really, and it's a nightmare sequence.
It really is, man. It really is.
I kid you not. This is like past like the whole Arnie visits Arnie thing. But I mean, seriously, Shrek sees Donkey and Puss with ogre baby faces.
It's I'm so glad you bring that up, Dragon, because as soon as I saw that image, my mind instantly went to the Arnold visits Arnie thing.
For those who may not be aware, there are 2. Basically, Arnie visits Arnie is a really creepy episode of Hey Arnold, where Arnold goes into the Twilight Zone bizarro world of the Hey Arnold universe, like the countryside of the Hey Arnold characters, and they're all really reversed and like they're paired up with other characters and they're inversed and switched up bizarro style. And for some haunting reason, Gerald and Sid, they have the same animation models, but it's like Sid is Gerald is Sid, but it's the same voice actors playing those characters, but their faces are like it's in the same head shapes with their face. Oh god, it's so horrible. I can't even describe it. It's so horrifying. But anyway,
it's like Gerald's head shape, but with white skin,
and with Sid's nose, it's like oh god, it's not right. The point is, it's not right, and more than Uncanny Valley, it's not right. It's an act that defies God. It's unholy. Anyway, let's see. Getting back to such a laundry list here. I'm just trying to hit the big ones. Again, we forced Artie into the film in every sense of the word, and I hate him just to keep it simple.
I mean, yeah. I mean, just the whole plot is just so boring, man. Like I said, the biggest sin, I think maybe on a fundamental filmmaking level and screenwriting level, the biggest sin this movie commits is the fact that the setup in itself is boring and convoluted.
I hate the high school stuff is really stupid. And even like the whole we have a stoner joke in a Shrek movie I could have lived without. We do all them. Why are we doing it's like why the high school stuff? And literally, again, I could be crazy here, but I'm pretty sure this is somewhat of a reference to it because, again, if you remember back, if I'm hitting some nostalgic buttons here, that Father of the Pride episode, they even reference that Father of the Pride episode in this movie, where Donkey was bullied as a kid. We have a flashback showing Donkey for some reason in school having braces and being bullied and picked on.
Oh God.
And here we see him in high school. The idea is that he goes to high school and he's bullied, and he's talking about getting wedgies and all sorts of ridiculous stuff, being blocked in lockers and kick me signs and all sorts of ridiculousness. The point is, I'm convinced it might be a callback to Father of the Pride because they reference Shrek 3 in that. I mean, I don't know that that's even possible, but it's like, you know what? I wouldn't put it past them. It's like, hey, tit for tat there,
Yeah.
Okay, of course, the body switch. Basically, the body switch is indicative of being out of new ideas.
Yep. I mean, and the body switch like into itself isn't like terribly executed or anything. It's just pointless.
Yeah. Let's see. I think we talked briefly
Merlin
about
is just a huge chunk of wasted potential.
the princesses are one note, and just that there's basically a shout out for the funny women of SNL. It's like, hey, Maya Rudolph doing nothing. Oh God, so she was there. Amy, hey, Amy Poehler, Amy Sedaris, hey, Princess Carolyn from BoJack Horseman, just falling asleep. Okay, okay.
Right.
Literally, Amy Sedaris falling asleep. I believe she's the one who plays the Sleeping Beauty. It's like, hey, Amy Sedaris, just really
Yep.
not doing anything.
And then Maya
Still.
Rudolph is also she's on Big Mouth, so it's kind of like all these SNL actresses turn Netflix voice actresses.
Yep. Of course, there's a huge plot hole already too of like, where was this kid before? Like, why isn't this? It's like with the old trope of okay, we need a plot element here. So wait, there's a long lost, like he was always passed over. I wonder why.
Yep.
So, guys, just again, missed opportunities all around. I guess the last thing to note is like the most cutting for me, and this is like one of those like deep hatred things. There's that I really like Chris Miller as a guy, as a director, as a more as a story man. But here's the thing, here's the thing that baffles me. You really think about this. I think he did a really good job directing Puss in Boots, the movie, and the guy has
Yeah, I still need
directed.
to see that one.
I really reckon Del Toro was actually in that movie, and I presume he had a lot of he was a creative consultant on that one. So there's a lot of good stuff in Puss in Boots. And that's the thing. So Chris
Wait,
Miller directed.
Guillermo del Toro?
Yeah, I told you this before. Where Del Toro, he did an animated series for DreamWorks that is now all on net. It just finished up on Netflix. He's doing like a whole series of animated
Troll
shows
Hunter?
Troll Hunter, which is going to spin off into two other shows. And Troll Hunter is really good. I can't highly recommend it anymore. Seriously, you'd love it. Anyway, the point is, if I'm getting, I'm reading into a little bit of this here, but the point is, Del Toro, I
I'm gonna
believe.
admit, Dragon, I kind of had a social network situation with the Troll Hunter where I watched like the first 10 minutes of an episode and it just didn't grab me, but I'll certainly give it another shot.
Oh, believe me, it'll grow, and it's really Kelsey Grammer is wonderful in the show. It's just,
Okay.
I think, and my point is, so Del Toro was working on that series. I presume while he was doing that, I don't know if it's really coincidental or not. While he was doing that, which probably took a number of years, he had been consulting on the other DreamWorks movies. Some of my favorites, actually. He had been like kind of a guy suggesting ideas here and there. He had ideas for Megamind, for How to Train Your Dragon, for I think some of the Kung Fu Pandas. I'm not sure. And again, because he did a voice, he was one of the great. He was a great character in Puss in Boots. Actually, he played the Commandante, the it's you're gonna basically the authority figure that Puss in Boots has kind of an interesting dynamic with the Commandante. That's Guillermo del Toro doing the voice of him. So
Nice.
basically, yes, kind of the Puss in Boots is Jim Gordon figure in a way.
Stop, folks.
Okay, but all right. But seriously, I can't. The point is, Puss in Boots is a great example. It's a fun movie, and again, that shows that Chris Miller really can do a good movie. But this, again, I feel so let down. I don't like. I can't say enough nice things about the guy, except when I get to this, because I just feel Chris Miller. The only thing I can say in his defense, and I don't know, is that he was just stuck with like a force move. Okay, we just need to crank one out. You do that. You oversee it. Like, can I get loosey goosey with it? We don't really have time for that. Just follow the script. Lack of script.
Yeah.
No, that's the biggest insult. It just kind of it adds a bad taste in the mouth for Chris Miller. So that's sad.
Right. Dragon, I really don't feel like this movie deserves the layers of the onion. Also, let's just breeze past this.
I don't
right?
believe me. I don't have a. You think I have a lot for layers of the onion? I put it in quotes. I put for those who can't see this. I wrote in a little Bible for this one quote unquote layers of the onion for a very specific reason. God, okay, so here's what they're trying to say with it. So there's somewhat of a color theme that again continues from the donkey foreshadow in Shrek 2, and again we're continuing some of the foreshadow from Shrek 2 with the movie. They're attempting that. We are moving Shrek's arc forward in the grand scheme, not actually in the story, but we kind of take him like 80 steps back. But I mean, overall, it's like, hey, Shrek becoming a father, more ogres. Okay. So he kind of gradually took a big step forward. big step forward in his character. The point of Shrek as a father, it's pretty substantial, I guess. If you have anything here, by all means, jump in because I'm about to run out like in 2 seconds here.
I've got nothing, man. You pretty much summed it up. I really don't. I mean, okay. The one thing I will say about this movie is like, I feel like the core fundamental problem with it, or one of the many core fundamental problems with it, is it's got some ideas of what it wants to be about, as you said, Dragon, but like the problem is that all these different ideas are so discombobulated, so just all over the place that they just do not come together to form a cohesive whole at all. And so it basically it just leaves it like the way I sum up Shrek 3. As I said, I don't have the same kind of passion and hatred for it that you do, but I wish I did because I just think it's just a nothing of a movie, man. I don't even think there's anything there to get all that angry about. I just think it's just a nothing movie. It's just like a blank slate. It's a non-entity. It might as well not even exist. You know, it's like at least something like Norm of the North or the Emoji Movie is like a fucking like cultural relic. You know what I mean? It's like we can look at something like the Emoji Movie and like, yeah, it might be painful to sit through, but you know, like that movie is going to be like infamous in the chronology of bad cinema. You know what I mean? Like that movie is going to be a footnote in what not to do when making a movie. Shrek the Third is just it's just nothing, man. I mean, if anything, Shrek the Third is like a good kind of go-to example of what not to do with a sequel, sure, but it's just it doesn't even have as much, you know, enough going for me to really even warrant getting all that upset about it. Honestly, it's just because honestly, I get upset at like, you know, like for example, like Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. Not to date this podcast, but man, that is a hot steaming dumpster fire of a movie that I can get upset about on a personal level as a Harry Potter fan. All right, this just exists, man. It's so nothing. It's so blah. It's so blasé. All right, and with that, Dragon, I think I'll go ahead and make that my final thoughts. If you want to go right into your final thoughts.
Okay, one last thing, then I'll get into my final thoughts. So one last idea,
Okay.
because this is going to be important going into Shrek Forever After, is that there is kind of a bigger question put forward that again dangerously gets blown out of proportion in the next movie, but again could have been smartly brought up here, but we don't do anything with this idea. Is that there's a bigger question of kind of filling the world with more ogres, like bringing more ogre life into the world, and like maybe that could have been a lingering question of why Shrek's insecure and all that sort of stuff. Like again, maybe that, and we could have added layers there, and that's again we could basically this segment's like we could have added layers of the onion, but we didn't. We were chopping the layers with a very dull knife, and we just gave up halfway through. That's pretty much what layers of the onion is for.
Right.
One. But okay, so getting to my final thoughts here. God, so again, I've compared this to the anti Toy Story 3 in a way. This is like absolutely not. This is the opposite of how you approach a third movie. In every way, even if it's look again, ending or no, you got to approach a third movie bigger. That look, I'm just gonna get. It's not the best comparison, but look at something like Bates Motel, or most likely where Better Call Saul is going to end up. Season 3 in like chapter 3 of a 5-chapter story. You gotta really do something merely. You're in the grand midpoint area where Bates Motel season 3. You lay the stakes of okay, now it's Norma and Norman's story. This is where we're beginning the grand descent of Norman Bates, and Better Call Saul is like the big Chuck and Jimmy story that will define everything going forward. Again, I don't know if it's going to end at 5 or 6 seasons. Who knows? But the point is, 3 is the grand midpoint, even if it's not the finale. So you don't necessarily have to go full circle, but you do have to do something big, and you can't just like say, "Oh, we're going to do other ones." So let's just do it so we can get to the other ones, so we can fund the other ones. So again, complete opposite of what you would do with. And the other reason I use the Toy Story 3 comparison is that if Toy Story 3 is like everything good you can do in as a third in a franchise, again, this is like I just feel the opposite of all the love I have for that with this movie. That's kind of another reason I would have that comparison. So it's very disappointing, and they know it. That's the cutting thing about it. It's like they know it. They knew it when they're making this. The animators. Here's the thing. Even the animators. animation is no small feat. And then the second Shrek movie that took literally a million, someone calculated, took over a million man hours. And you go to Shrek the third. Well, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I think if Shrek 2 wasn't the million man hours one, this one actually might have been the million man hours a Shrek movie. And if that's the case, I gotta tell you, I don't doubt that a lot of hard work went into the movie, and that's the thing that makes this a tragedy to talk so just bad about it. But it really doesn't show. It feels kind of cheap in places. It really does because all the scenes, like there's no spectacle. We had spectacle in the other two movies. There's no spectacle here at all. When you think about it, it's all
Yeah,
like dialogue scenes, walking around. And don't get me wrong, I like a good dialogue scene. Like but again, like leave it to Brad Bird. Don't do a big dialogue scene here. Like this does not warrant like all. It's like we're not doing anything with the playground that we set up in the other two movies. It's I just sorry, I'm just trying to compose my thoughts a little here. It's just I always avoid Shrek 3 because deep down they know they made this because they were told to, not because they wanted to, or they felt like they had a story to tell. They rushed into it without a story, and that was a grand problem with this. I try not to blame the director on this. I try not to. I don't know. Maybe it was his fault. Maybe it wasn't. I legitimately don't know. But this movie is like signifies all the things that could go wrong with Shrek that then kind of corrupts Shrek going forward with stuff like Shrek Forever After. Because this is the point where we're out of ideas, and Shrek is put into a place that we've seen before in other stories. Like we've seen this story told so many other times, and the systemic problem, the reason Shrek 3 doesn't work, the reason it makes me sad is because we did such a good job fundamentally in the other two movies where Shrek was the revolutionary. Shrek took us to places and story we hadn't seen before. And then we just put him in such a cliche, like by the numbers plot that doesn't do anything. It doesn't challenge everything. And I think that's the true doom of Shrek the Third. It's just it could have been done better, and it didn't try. I think it's everything. I think in so many ways it's what's wrong with animation when it gets to a franchise, and I think it's been a cautionary tale going forward because I can't quite remember a franchise that's bombed as badly since this with a third movie. To my recollection, animated film that is. I mean, Despicable Me 3 was not a bomb, nowhere near it. Again, Despicable Me was not a bomb at all. It's just like, okay. It was like that's the one. I honestly think I feel that one's.
I mean, honestly, Despicable Me 3, like, just because of Trey Parker, that's my favorite of the Despicable Me movies. But
That's the thing.
that's kind of on my end. But
That's the thing. Like, I don't have any, and I'm bringing that up. It's like that's the most recent example of like a third in a franchise I can think of at the moment. Where like, okay, get to a third one. It's like they see Despicable Me. They can keep going with it. It wasn't like super finale, but it wasn't super final movie. But it was kind of.
Dragon, I've got a bad feeling in my gut that How to Train Your Dragon 3 is going to be a good movie, but not a great movie.
Again, worst case scenario, I think that one could turn into like a Return of the Jedi, which wouldn't be the end of the world for it. So
Right,
like
right, for sure.
And that's the thing with Despicable Me. It's like I can still enjoy that movie. I don't think it's as good as the first one or the second one, but it's like it's okay. It's okay. That's the thing. Like third Despicable Me is okay, but so far I think the embarrassment that was felt by this critically is that it made a lot of money, but they have to live with the kind of the shame of this thing, and I think it shows. Again, before Shrek Month, I never really got a sense of like how much of an embarrassment this was to them, where we kind of sold our souls to make this movie, and it really shows because they know you never. People try to avoid this movie like the plague. Any review you see of this movie, it's very negative, or people just kind of like really not wanting to talk about it, like you and I are this go around. And I think that speaks for itself. The doom of Shrek begins with the third, and it's just that's it.
I wonder if there's like any weird kid out there where this is their favorite Shrek movie. I'd like to meet that kid. All right. So,
It's over.
all right. Well, grab your bookmarks, kids. We're pausing the story and making camp for the night. But don't worry. Come sunrise, we're making waffles. You got nothing? You got nothing for the end tag?
I won't dignify a response.